So every now and then in the comments section, people have asked me my thoughts about the Ethiopian Bible. We've reviewed the Orthodox Study Bible here on the channel. We've reviewed a number of Catholic Study Bibles here on the channel. We've reviewed different versions of the Septuagint here on the channel. We've also done a couple of episodes on the Apocrypha, or the Deuterocanonical texts. What we haven't done yet is the Ethiopian Bible. And so I thought, let me see what's out there and give you an idea of what's out there, at least if you try to buy an Ethiopian Bible on Amazon, what you will come across a lot of. I'm going to show you two that I picked up. I'll give you my thoughts. I'll warn you what to expect, at least in one of them. And then I'll tell you what I would do if I were someone looking to read ancient works outside of the biblical canons. So if you appreciate any of that after watching this video, any of our other resource reviews, interviews, teaching episodes, Bible studies, all of the stuff we do here on the channel, even our silly superhero seminary videos, that's one of these toys are behind me on the shelf. We actually use those to teach biblical scholarship and theological concepts. So if you find any of this helpful, one of the ways you can help us is obviously by subscribing if you haven't done so already to the channel, but also if you would like to become a monthly donor. If you find this helpful, that's how we do everything we do at Disciple Dojo, through our monthly dojo donors. We don't do Patreon, we don't do tiered memberships, we don't give you things in exchange for you giving us money. We just do what we do, and then we ask you if you appreciate it and you want to support us to consider doing that. You can do that at the link. I'll put it right here on the screen. And as always, if you are or become a monthly dojo donor, send me an email through our contact form on the website. Just shoot me an email that says you're a donor. You don't have to tell me what amount. And I would love to send you one of our iron-on patches, either our dark color or our light color Disciple Dojo iron-on patch. Just small thank you for helping keep this channel going. All right, let's look at some Ethiopian Bibles that I got on Amazon. So there are a couple of different bindings. If you just search Ethiopian Bible on Amazon, a bunch of stuff will come up. This one came up the most, the complete Ethiopian Bible in English. And this is why this jumps out at people. It says 88 printed books, 1,612 digital books, for a total of 1,700 books. You're getting 1,700 books of the Ethiopian Bible. Includes missing Apocrypha, Book of Enoch, Book of Ezra, Jubilees, Book of Wisdom, and other sacred Orthodox lost books. And this one is illustrated edition. The other one is the Ethiopian Bible in English in complete large print. This one's significantly thinner. They are slightly different sizes, different widths, but they are both published in Middletown, Delaware, both on the 11th of November, 2025. This one is from something called Solomon's Gate Press. This one doesn't say. It just says it's by MJD Osborne. No address, no copyright page, nothing. So let's take these in reverse order. I'll start with this one first. There's not going to be much comment because there is no study content, or I should say there's very little study content. So here is what you have. You open it up, it tells you the Apocrypha. So this is just the Apocrypha. It says Ethiopian Bible in English in complete large print. So it's not the complete Bible, complete large print. I guess that means really large print. I don't know. A little bit misleading if you're not paying attention. And then it says this is the Apocrypha of the Orthodox Tawahedo Church with the missing Deuterocanonical books. So they use Apocrypha and Deuterocanonical, like Enoch Jubilees, Maccabean, Ethiopic Didaskalia, and many others by MJD Osborne. No idea who this is. I tried to look up online, got no results other than someone who publishes these Bibles. So you turn the page. That's as much as you get of a copyright. Then here are the contents. So these are the books. First, second, and third Maccabean. Now, I'm not familiar with this book. It's not Maccabees. It's a different book than that. I'm not a member of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. I do not know the history of the Tawahedo library, the different texts. I do know that out of all of the Christian traditions, the Ethiopian Orthodox tradition has the broadest canon. In other words, they included the most books, and they weren't really participants in later canonical debates. So books that the rest of Christendom eventually said, these actually aren't genuine apostolic books. Many of those are still used by Ethiopian Orthodox churches. But after that, these are all pretty standard: 1st and 2nd Esdras, Tobit, Judith, Greek additions to Esther, Wisdom, Sirach, Baruch, Letter of Jeremiah, Song of the Three Holy Children, Susanna, Bell and the Dragon. They do include the Prayer of Manasseh and Psalm 151 and 4th Baruch. Then this one includes 1st Enoch, not the rest of the Enoch literature, but just 1st Enoch, and Jubilees, and then the Ethiopic Didaskalia. This is not the Didache, but it's like an Ethiopian version of early church teaching. So then you have an introduction. It does not say who it's written by. It doesn't say who any of these books are translated by. It doesn't say who compiled any of this. Other than this name, M.J.D. Osborne, this whole thing is anonymous. It does tell you that these are the books that are being preserved in the Ge'ez tradition, and that these aren't included in most English language Bibles. And then this is what you have. Here we have 1st Maccabean. There's a 1-paragraph introduction. It says the first book of Maccabean, also known as the 1st Ethiopian Maccabees, is distinct from better-known books of Maccabees. It is not a historical account of the Maccabean revolt, but a moral and spiritual text that teaches faithfulness to God, the danger of idolatry, and the reward of righteousness. The book features figures like Abia, Sila, and Phentos, who remain faithful even unto death. So that's what you get, but it is literally just the text of this book. There are no study notes. There are a few little translation notes at the bottom that may talk about terms that are used like Gehenna, but most pages don't even have anything. Maccabean is 36 chapters, and then right into 2nd Maccabean. It is not a sequel to 1st Maccabean in the traditional sense. Instead, it offers its own narrative, focusing on moral lessons, divine justice, and the fate of the righteous versus the wicked, introduces new characters, including a rebellious figure named Maccabees, who was portrayed as an oppressor of Israel rather than a hero. So in Israel, the Maccabeans are the heroes in the intertestamental books of Maccabees. Not so in this. But that is it. There's nothing to review. So if you're expecting a review, I apologize. It is just the text. I do not know who did these translations. Do not know who wrote these introductions. Here's the 3rd Maccabean introduction. And it just, in the paragraph, it tells us, it speaks about Diablos, the deceiver, and how he leads many away from the path of truth. And it begins, chapter 1, Christos will bring joy to the people of Egypt because he will come to them in a future time to bring justice and destroy Diablos, who harm those who were kind and innocent, who misled many, and who hated the works of his creator. And then that last book I mentioned, the Ethiopic Didaskalia, it says the Ethiopic Didaskalia holds a special place among the ancient writings preserved in the Ethiopian Christian tradition. Rooted in the teachings of the apostles, this book serves as both a pastoral guide and a manual for Christian living. It offers instructions on matters of worship, community, life, discipline, leadership, and the responsibilities of both clergy and laity. The word didaskalia itself simply means teaching, and that's exactly what this text provides. So then there's like a title line, a couple of title lines, and then it starts verse 1. We, the 12 apostles, ministers of his holy begotten Son, Jesus Christ, being gathered together in one place in Jerusalem, the city of the great King, and with us our good and holy brother Paul, the apostle of all the Gentiles, and James, the brother of our Lord, who is the bishop of this city of Jerusalem, have ordained this right doctrine and have appointed degrees of offices for the church according to the pattern of that which is in heaven, and we charge each one of you severally with thanksgiving, for that our Lord Jesus hath called us to his glory. That's all verse 1. So it goes on. There's a lot of it. It is about 60-something pages or so. And then at the end, there's just this little conclusion. Very general, doesn't tell you anything. It just says this volume has brought together the treasured apocryphal writings of the Ethiopian Orthodox Tewahedo tradition, books long preserved in faith, yet often forgotten by the wider world. From the courage of the Maccabeans to the divine visions of Enoch and the ancient wisdom of Jubilees, these texts remind us of a deeper spiritual heritage rooted in reverence for the Creator and devotion to truth. May these sacred writings strengthen your faith, awaken your understanding, and draw your heart closer to Jah, who sees all, knows all, and rules with justice and mercy. Let the words you have read remain with you not only as history, but as a living call to righteousness, humility, and hope. Peace be upon those who seek wisdom. And that is literally it. So that is this. You're just getting the apocryphal, deuterocanonical, Ethiopian church-specific books in some English translation. Now, what about this one? The Complete Ethiopian Bible. Okay, this one has a little bit more something in it. I'll let you decide if that's good or bad. 1,700 books with audiobook and video lesson. So that sounds like a bargain. You open it up. It tells you this is from Solomon's Gate Press. Then there's a copyright page. And let me zoom in on this. This is fascinating. 2025, Solomon's Gate Press, all rights reserved. Standard stuff. Disclaimer. This book is a curated edition of the Ethiopian Bible intended to provide an accessible format for study, reflection, and historical engagement. The introduction and conclusion have been written by Reverend Dr. Rance Settle, Master of Divinity, MDiv, that's the degree I have, and Doctor of Ministry, D-Min, in theology and biblical interpretation. D-Min, it's not a PhD. It is, it's like what a lot of pastors do if they want a little more specialized training in sort of like practical ministry stuff. So it's not a PhD, but it's still, people technically get the title doctor if they do their Doctor of Ministry. But anyway, he's included to provide background context and an expert theological perspective. The glossary and footnotes have been written by Solomon's Gate Press and are the creative expression and intellectual property of the publisher. Formatting, structure, footnotes, and glossary are the creative expression of Solomon's Gate Press. The creative expression and creative placement of images are the intellectual property of Solomon's Gate Press. By creative placement of images, they mean that every now and then they just put one of Gustave Doré's engravings in the Bible. That is the, as far as I can see, creative placement of images. And they say that illustrations are by Gustave Doré, originally published in La Grande Biblia de Tours, 1866. These illustrations are public domain. These creative placements are the intellectual property of Solomon's Gate Press. Maybe legally you have to, I don't think you have to put that, but I don't know. Maybe they did. Who knows? And then there's a limitation of liability. I did not know this was a thing in Bibles. This work is provided as is, with no warranties, express or implied, regarding the accuracy or completeness of the information herein. Don't know why you'd have to put that in a Bible, especially one that does not have study material. But anyway, that's what you're going to get. Then, table of contents, all the 88 books. So then you turn the page. There's an introduction. This is done by Reverend Dr. Rance Settle, Master of Divinity, Doctor of Ministry. And what I saw online was he is either got this degree from or is affiliated with Concordia Seminary in St. Louis. When I did a search online, because I'm not familiar with this person, that's what came up. So just a general introduction, this is not written for members of the Ethiopian Church. This is written for English readers who want to know more about it, it seems. Then you have a bonus guide. And this is where they let you know what all this actually means. When you buy this book, you get audio video book of the Ethiopian Bible. Now, listen, this is where it gets a little sensationalistic. Always beware of this type of language, by the way. Uncover the scriptures they tried to silence. This powerful audio-video playlist dives into the Ethiopian Bible, the oldest and most complete biblical canon, along with banned books like Enoch, Jasher, and Jubilees. Explore the hidden truths. Your Gnostic alarm should be going off when you hear these kind of phrases. Explore the hidden truths, suppressed teachings, and spiritual insights they removed, and reclaim your divine connection to African heritage, Hebrew roots, and sacred wisdom. This is directly feeding into that aberrant mindset of like the Hebrew roots movement, Black Hebrew Israelites, appealing to this desire of like, hey, all that you've heard in church, that's just been what Europeans have wanted you to hear. This is going to be the real thing. Let's get back to the real African heritage. And let's be clear, the church has been in Africa far longer than it was ever in Western Europe. From the first century, some of the first Christians were from the continent of Africa. Christianity is deeply African and Middle Eastern and European. It's not one or the other. It's all of those. That's because the gospel was like the nexus that brought all the nations together, because that's what God promised to do through the seed of Abraham. So anyway, just already I'm like, okay, I got to check out this playlist. What's this going to be? We'll look at that in a second. You also get digital library access. Unlock a growing collection of ancient Judeo-Christian texts with our comprehensive digital library. Expand your understanding through key works like Third Enoch, the Sibylline Oracles, the Life of Adam and Eve, the Book of Jasher, the Shepherd of Hermas, and 1st through 4th Maccabees, plus many more rare and powerful writings. Here's how you access it. Here's a code you can scan, or you can go to this web address. solomonsgate.net/special content. Press enter to unlock your bonuses. So let's do that. So when you go there, you're taken to this page and it just says simply pop in your go-to email address and we'll send your bonuses straight away to your inbox. We only send emails once or twice a year just to keep you informed of new releases. So you put your name, you put your email, you hit submit. And when you do, you'll get an email that says, thank you for purchasing the most complete Ethiopian Bible in English, 1,300 books. It said 1,700. Where are my 400 books? And so then they ask you first to leave a review on Amazon. And then they say, I've included the Master Apocrypha 120 book collection and an additional 1,212 book collection to complement your reading experience. Explore sacred texts and then they just list them again. You can click Get Your Apocrypha Collection and plus enjoy the complete Ethiopian Bible audiobook with over 100 hours of content to explore. Stream your audio video lessons here. So you got two options. When you stream, let's start with that one first. It takes you to a playlist on a channel called House of Hadassah, the Hebrew name for Esther. When you click on, this woman is a life coach. All the videos I looked at her channel, they're like her sitting on her couch or in a computer talking, giving life, spiritual, holistic health advice. But then all the audio books are just YouTube AI-generated videos by this channel, Christopher Glenn, who's someone who narrates audiobooks and apocryphal books and things like that. So that's all this is. This is just the book of Genesis with just this really bad, super Caucasian Adam and Eve. Eve's a ginger. Yeah, we get one. And this looks like Sully from Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. Those of you Gen Xers, you'll catch that reference. And when you click on it,
to the ark. For thee have I seen righteous
this
before
guy,
me in this generation.
Glenn,
and said,
just these AI-generated thumbnails. And I think AI is great for generating thumbnails. I think it's terrible for generating content, and that's what some of this stuff is. Every word said by Jesus. Okay, this is just somebody reading the red letters. The commands of Jesus from the four Gospels, just reading the commands of Jesus. Okay, now we're getting into the life of Adam and Eve, Apocalypse of Moses, full audiobook with text. Let's check it out.
The Life of Adam and Eve, or The Apocalypse of Moses. When they were driven out from paradise, they made themselves a booth and spent 7 days.
So these are this person, Christopher Glenn, reading the pseudepigraphical books, and then they've used AI to put text over it. And there's some more later, closer to medieval books, like the book of Jasher. That's not actually the one that's mentioned in the Bible. This is a much later book, centuries later. That's why it's in the pseudepigraphical, the falsely attributed writings, Testament of 12 Patriarchs. These are just books you can find in any copy of the pseudepigrapha. The Didache, the Shepherd of Hermas, the 7 letters of Ignatius. These are all in Apostolic Fathers. Now, where it really becomes AI slop is when you get into these Maccabean books. Let's just pull up First Maccabean and you'll see what I mean.
And brought before his throne. The king questioned them, saying, Why do you...
All it is, it's just text with...
So that none may boast in their strength.
Video put over it.
For Yah is the ruler.
You also have somebody reading the audio of Josephus, at least the Antiquities of the Jews. I don't know if they have... It doesn't look like they have Jewish wars, but they do have Antiquities of the Jews. You got some Gnostic text, the Gospel of Philip.
Inherit nothing, for how could a dead person inherit?
ProPresent or PowerPoint.
If a dead person inherits the living,
worship slide.
The living will not die, and the dead will come to life.
Here's just a great example of this Gnostic tendency. Forbidden knowledge, why the Book of Jubilees was banned. The Book of Jubilees has never been banned. It's in most copies of the pseudepigrapha that I've ever seen.
Jubilees expands on this theme, showing how Esau's descendants would become a nation that directly opposes Jacob's line, the future Israelites.
And then, this cracked me up. There's 2 videos at the bottom. These are one's by Acacia Mission, and one is by it's called Shofar. 7 hours of shofar blowing, spiritual warfare and healing, Christian prayer background sound, and 8 hours nonstop powerful sound of shofar blowing, spiritual warfare, Lion of Judah. It sounds exciting. Let's check it out. It's literally this for 8 hours. It very literally gives you what it says it is. Whether that has any use in spiritual warfare and healing, that will depend on your theology. So anyway, that's the audio book and video lesson that they advertise. It's just a YouTube playlist of somebody narrating these pseudepigraphical and apocryphal writings and biblical books over AI-generated backgrounds sometimes, and 8 and 7 hours videos of people blowing shofars. All right, so that's the stream audio video lessons. Let's get your Apocrypha collection. That's what you really want, right? That's the 1,612 books in this vast library that you're wanting. So when you click on that, it takes you to a Google Drive. And they are limited access PDFs. I cannot download these. They're grayed out. But they are the Acts of John, the Acts of Peter, the Acts of Thomas. These are all pseudepigraphical books from centuries after the New Testament. Ethiopian Bible, additional bonus books, Volume 1 and Volume 2. We'll come back to that. Sibylline Oracles, Book of the Giants, Book of Jubilees, Testament of Abraham. So where are the 1,612 books? I'm glad you asked. Let's click on one of these additional bonus book volumes. You can't download it, but you can open it and read it on your screen. And look, it's 1,280 pages. That's substantial. That's like twice as thick as one of these volumes. So you scroll, here we go, Volume 1. To the reader opening this digital companion, thank you. Thank you for your openness, your curiosity, your desire to grow in faith, etc., etc. Introduction. There's an introduction to this bonus material, why this collection exists. It's a broad and varied collection. And here's your table of contents. These are the books. Apocalypses, Chronicles of Axum, Hymns of Saint Yared, Odes of Solomon, Miracles of Mary. And there's a lot of them, but they're not just Ethiopian texts. I mean, they have things like a letter of Ignatius to the Ephesians, prayer of Manasseh, letter of Barnabas, prayer of Ambrose. So there's a lot of these, and you can scroll through, and each one is numbered as a separate book. There's not a clickable table of contents, and I cannot print. It's grayed out. Again, it's hard to navigate because all I can do is scroll, and it's 1,200 pages of scrolling. But each one of these texts, they're counting as a separate book. So that's Volume 1. Open Volume 2, and what they've done, I'll zoom in here, each of these, again, each prayer is listed as a book. That's how they get to 1,612 books, by counting each one of these prayers. It's like taking a hymnal that's got, 700, 800 songs in it and counting each one of those songs as a book and then advertising, you get 700 books. But that's, it's just pages and pages of prayers. Literally, like 250, 300, all the way to 396. So almost 400 pages. So this one is significantly shorter than Volume 1, but it's 400 pages literally of just prayers. So they're counting this as a book. So anyway, that's the comprehensive library that you're getting. Again, maybe, I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. I can't download these PDFs and I can't print them. So without the ability to do either of those two things, this is pretty useless. So anyway, that's the audiobook and video lesson. What about the Bible itself? All right, I paid, I don't even know how much this was, like $40, $50, something like that. I've got, at least I have the 88 print books. So the books that are in the Orthodox and Slavonic and Catholic Bibles, as well as Protestant Bibles, and some of the ones that are only in the Ethiopian canon. So even if it was just that, like just take away this and you just have that, that's still a pretty good thing to have, right? Especially for a good study Bible. That's a good thing to read. And I'll let you guys decide if this is misleading. I mean, this is blatantly misleading, but I'll let y'all decide if this is misleading or not. You tell me. I'm just showing you what it was and giving you my candid reaction. This is what you have. Gustave Doré engraving, which is intellectual property of the person who placed it there. I guess the beginning said that. I have no idea what translation this is because there's no information available. Maybe you'll recognize it if I read it. I just, off the top of my head, I don't know. But it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And there's a little footnote here. We'll come back to that. Now the earth was without shape and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the watery deep, but the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the water. God said, quote, creation of light, and there was light. I've never seen that phrase. Now, if you know what English translation this is, let me know, because I just, off the top of my head, that's not familiar. Yehi or, let there be light, calling it creation of light. I've never heard that. They also translate Adam as humankind. They do not talk about a garden that God plants, but he plants an orchard. And then actually like the way this is translated, Ezer Kenegdo, they translate, I will make a companion for him who corresponds to him. It's wordy, but that is actually a really good translation of Ezer Kenegdo. But then this is strange. Verse 24, that is why a man leaves his father and mother and unites with his wife, and they become a new family. This is, in Hebrew, this is Bashar Echad, one flesh. Maybe, I'm just spitballing here, maybe this is an English translation of the Ge'ez, or maybe Amharic, or one of the other languages that was spoken that made its way into Ethiopian versions of the Bible. Maybe we're reading a translation of an Ethiopian translation of the Hebrew Bible or the Septuagint. I don't know. I generally don't know. And there's nothing in this that tells me. But just so you can see, this is it. This is all the whole Bible. It's just walls and walls of double column, double justified text. So if you want to cram a lot of information into a relatively small volume, this is a pretty good way to do it. But if you want to have a good, relaxing reading experience, this is probably one of the worst presentations I've seen just visually. This is literally cramming information on the page. Got to give them props for the Dory illustrations. They are public domain, so anybody can put them in any Bible they want to publish, but I love Gustave Doré. I think he was brilliant. But yeah, that's it. That's what you're getting. Now, I've just went and kind of color-coded where the additions are. So basically, everything in yellow is what is not in other Bibles. So Jubilees, for instance. Now, Jubilees is in the Jewish Annotated Apocrypha, which we reviewed here on the channel. It might also be in one of the other apocryphal collections. I can't remember. Now, David De Silva and I, when he was on and talking about the Apocrypha, we referenced how much of a nightmare trying to keep straight all the books that are named Ezra or Esdras is, because they all have different names in every tradition, and they're all different. But there's no introduction that tells you anything about it. And then when it comes to the books, the Maccabean books, it's not the same translation as in the other. So just as a reminder, in the previous edition, chapter 1 of 3rd Maccabean says, Christos will bring joy to the people of Egypt because he will come to them in a future time, bring justice and destroy Diabolos who harmed them, who were kind and innocent, who misled many, and who hated the works of his creator. Look how it reads in this one, though. Christos shall rejoice gibbets persons, because him shall come toward them in a later era, that him will revenge and downstroy Diabolos, who wronged them, who were kindly and innocent, and who misled persons, and who hate him, irator work. All of the Maccabean books read this way. I don't know what dialect this is. It sounds, just as I was trying to read it out loud, it sounds almost like, some type of Rastafarian or Caribbean dialect, but I don't think that's what it is. It's an Ethiopian Bible, so I don't know enough about Ethiopian dialects to know what this is. But it's like a hybrid language. It's English and something, anglicized something. Because me became by them reason that me might distant them from the straight law of Jah, as me will strengthen pon person who live into this world unless they them did Jah accord. Like, in my head, it sounds like something from the Caribbean. But that's what you're getting. So just be prepared. Lastly, let's go back to Genesis 1. I can't not address this as somebody who teaches Hebrew Bible. Remember I said there was a footnote in the beginning, God created? You see it right there? Well, here's the footnote. God, translated from the Hebrew word, what in the world word is this? Mihole? What is miho? Oh, they forgot to change it from left to right. This is backwards. These are the letters of Elohim, but they're backwards. They're reading this way, not this way. And I thought it might be a typo. Honest mistakes happen. Genesis 16, verse 14, Bir Lahai Roy. They have it as Yor Yechal Reov. It's backwards. Whoever's proofing this, whoever's selling this to people online can't read Hebrew. Genesis 25, Genesis 26. It's all backwards. They're telling you what the Hebrew means, but they can't correctly put the Hebrew on the page. I'm going to be honest, this doesn't surprise me. Most people who actively teach or are enamored by things like 1,700 books, hidden books they didn't want you to read, all of that just cult-like rhetoric, most of those people have very little, if any, knowledge of Hebrew. And again, if that were just a typo on a page, I could overlook it because Lord knows I've made typos in my work, and there's stuff I've probably said in videos that I didn't catch until after I was editing, and I was like, or I didn't even catch it then, and it's probably still out there on YouTube. But I'm not selling books to people, promising them hidden knowledge and real truths. I'm not marketing AI slop to people as if it's some library of something when it is completely free online for anyone, regardless of whether or not you buy this Bible, if you want to call it a Bible. So if I sound kind of irritated at this, I am. This is irritating to me as a Bible teacher, as somebody who tries to educate people, who holds the text in high regard, even the apocryphal, deuterocanonical, even the pseudepigraphical writings. I think they're important and everybody should read them, but not by marketing this esoteric, hidden knowledge, deeper spiritual insight nonsense when you can't even spell Hebrew correctly on the page. Look, if you want to read these writings, one, they're all public domain. You can literally search them online, enter in whatever book you want to read and just put read online, and it'll be online somewhere. You don't have to fork over money for a poorly formatted print edition by some publisher with no way to verify that they even know what they're talking about at all. If you want more scholarly, if you want to really dig deeper, you can get the pseudepigraphical writings. Here's the 2-volume set by Charles Worth. This is available, has been available for as long as I've been involved in biblical studies. This is not hidden. It's not secret. It sits on the library shelf in every reputable library. It's got the apocalyptic literature, all the Enoch literature, not just First Enoch, but all of the Enoch literature. It's got Jubilees. It's got Wisdom of Solomon. It's got all of those books. It doesn't have all the prayers. I'll give them that. It doesn't have all the prayers and the hymns and the rituals of the Ethiopian church, but the actual texts, they're available. The New Testament Apocrypha. What about the books? What about those later Gnostic Gospels that we hear about? Those are available as well. This is 2 volumes. I only have volume 1. I don't have volume 2 of this. But Schneelnucker's New Testament Apocrypha, it's right here. This has been sitting on my shelf for over 20 years. So none of this is hidden. You have the Gospels, non-biblical material about Jesus, isolated sayings of the Lord, fragments of unknown Gospels, the Coptic Gospel of Thomas, Jewish Christian Gospels, the Gospel of Philip, the Gospel of the Egyptians, the Gospel of Peter, dialogues of the Redeemer, other Gnostic Gospels, related literature. All of these Gospels attributed to the apostles, the ones named of an apostle, Gospel of Philip, Coptic Gospel of Thomas, Book of Thomas, Gospel according to Matthias, tradition of Matthias, Gospel of Judas, Apocryphon of John. You have Gospels under the names of women, the questions of Mary, the Gospel of Mary, the Gena Marias. You even have Gospels attributed to arch heretics, the Gospel of Cerinthus, the Gospel of Basilides, the Gospel of Marcion, the infancy Gospels, where you have Jesus doing the Gnostic magic tricks. Those were real popular. And they're actually scholarly translations. They tell you what we actually have. And when they're missing segments in the manuscripts, they let you know that. This is for serious study of these texts. And it's the same thing with Charles Worth. You got the expansions of the Old Testament and legends. So the letter of Aristeas, this is how the Septuagint is accounted for. There's Jubilees right there. Life of Adam and Eve, 4th Baruch, the wisdom, the philosophical literature, the prayers, the Psalms, the odes, fragments of lost Judeo-Hellenistic works. And then in volume 1, I read this last year, you have all of the Enoch literature, the Ethiopian Apocalypse of Enoch, the Slavonic Apocalypse of Enoch, the Hebrew Apocalypse of Enoch, the Sibylline Oracles, the Greek Apocalypse of Ezra, the Vision of Ezra. Ezra was a real popular figure. People like to attribute things to him. 2nd Baruch, 3rd Baruch, Apocalypse of Abraham, Apocalypse of Elijah, Apocalypse of Daniel. And then you have the testaments of the different biblical characters, Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, Testament of Job, Testament of the 3 Patriarchs, Testament of Moses, Testament of Solomon, Testament of Adam. So these are not hidden. Like I said, any theological library, heck, most university libraries you go to, they will have these. So it's not some conspiracy trying to keep these books out of people's minds, at least not in the modern era. They're freely available. As soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, bless their hearts. And then when I saw the Hebrew at the bottom, I was like, the person doesn't know Hebrew. And then when I actually went and saw what they were marketing as video lessons. It's just regurgitated AI content behind somebody reading these books. And then the digital books, most of them are just individual prayers. It's just everything about this. I was like, I just don't want anybody else to waste their money expecting a genuine Ethiopian Bible. Like if you went to Ethiopia and went to worship in a Tawhid church and, wanted to experience it. And I actually was like, okay, once I took a look at this, I was like, let me order another one. Let me see if I can find one that's a little bit more like something you would get in an actual English-speaking Ethiopian church. And so when I looked, this didn't have all the sensationalism, and I was like, maybe this is more authentic. And it actually said the Orthodox Tewahedo Church. So I was like, okay, maybe this will be. And as soon as it came, I was like, you got to be kidding me. So anyway, I mean, I bought the cheapest versions I could, the paperbacks, and I'm glad I did, because this is certainly not something that, honestly, I would love for Disciple Dojo viewers to know more about the Ethiopian church. I would just say this is not the way to do it. Forget this and anything that looks like this in terms of how it's marketed and published on Amazon, because it's misleading. If you want to know more about the Ethiopian church, find an Ethiopian Christian. Go to church with them. Connect with one online at least. Talk to actual Ethiopians. In fact, right now, I'm currently at SBL when this video is being published. There is a whole SBL section for the study of Ethiopian scriptures. It's a legit discipline. The Ethiopian church is a legit Christian tradition, and nothing I'm saying in this video should be taken as in any way disparaging the actual Ethiopian Orthodox Church. What I'm annoyed with is AI slop being marketed as unique, people being misled to spend money on something and not get what they're being led to believe they're getting, and then the claims of hidden secret knowledge that they don't want you to read. Just that's the stuff that annoys me. So if you're hearing that in this video, it's different from other reviews, and you are Ethiopian or you go to an Ethiopian Orthodox congregation, none of this is directed at you. This is directed solely at whoever markets this for those reasons that I just said. So as always, these are my candid thoughts. I clearly did not get paid anything. I bought both of these, and so you don't have to, basically. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm sure I'm going to get some people who are into this type of esoteric stuff. But honestly, I would just say find a healthy church community and get involved there, whether it's Ethiopian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Catholic, Slavonic, Anglican, any of the Protestant traditions. Just get plugged into a healthy church where they encourage you to read and study and to look into the Deuterocanonical and the Apocryphal and even the pseudepigraphical writings, because they are interesting and they do give us background into the world after the time of the New Testament, some of the Old Testament pseudepigrapha before the time of the New Testament, but most of it after. And the intertestamental writings, they're valuable for understanding the world of Hellenistic Judaism into which the gospel came and then spread to places as far as Spain, Rome, Egypt, Ethiopia, and ultimately to the ends of the earth. So that'll do. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If it was, I'd love for you to subscribe and stay tuned for more here at Disciple Dojo. But in the meantime, as always, keep training.